My husband pretended to cheat, then got mad at me for my reaction. I'm 35 and he's 33, and I can't believe this is really happening. I should have known something was up when my husband kept practically pushing his iPad in my face. When I finally checked it, I saw that he was cheating, except it was all a prank. I was still reeling, but he's the one who's mad because I wasn't devastated enough for him to enjoy his little joke. I begged him to go to therapy with me, but he's refusing any type of conversation. About a month ago, while having Sunday breakfast, my husband left his iPad on the counter and went to the gym while I was doing the dishes. Now that I think about it, he went out of his way to draw my attention to the iPad the whole morning, placing it on display and leaving it wherever I was. Now I know why. While I was loading the dishwasher, he got a text and a picture of an undressed female torso and a message asking, "You missed this?" The number belonged to Eve. I froze in my tracks. We've been married for 2 years, and we have 2 children together, a 5-year-old boy and 3-year-old girl. Against my better judgment, I started looking, and there was this full conversation he and Eve had been having for over a week. He was cheating on me with this Eve. I can't describe the amount of pain I felt as I ran to the bathroom, puking up and crying. Anyway, when he got back from the gym and asked me what was wrong, I just handed him the iPad and told him that he's gotten a text from Eve. I then said I needed to go out for a walk and asked him to stay with the children. He said okay. I went for a 3-hour walk. He texted me multiple times, asking if I was okay. I said that I was fine and just needed the walk. I don't remember crying this much my entire life. When I got home, I told him that I knew about his cheating and asked him how we're going to do this. Do what? He asked. I told him that we obviously can't stay married, but that I needed to know how we're going to do this with the least damage possible to the children. I told him that since he has parents living nearby, he could move out and let me stay with the children for now until we separated. Is that really your whole reaction? He asked. Are you effing serious right now? I just looked at him, all puzzled. What did he mean by this? I told him that I couldn't discuss this now because I was exhausted. He started yelling that I was so careless and cold. My reaction to his infidelity wasn't the proper reaction, or at least not the one he expected. He then shoved the iPad in my hands and asked me to call Eve. I refused and ran to our room because I couldn't believe how cruel he was being by asking me to call his mistress. "Effing call the number," he shouted. I did. The number belonged to his friend, and he was laughing on the other line, saying it was all a prank. It took me a few moments to get it, but then I started crying. My husband was livid at the way I handled the prank. He was disappointed that I didn't care enough. I don't know what he wanted me to do. He couldn't explain how he expected me to act. He just yelled that he didn't expect this. Now, a month later, he's still so cold and distant with me. I tried to apologize and explain that I was hurt, but I was also shocked because cheating wasn't like him. I tried to explain that I just didn't want to hurt our children. I told him that I loved him so much, and if his prank had been true, it would have broken me. It did break me for the few hours I believed it. He thinks I'm too cold and apathetic, and my reaction was abnormal. So now he's cold and apathetic towards me, and I think the whole situation is abnormal. I'm sure this original poster doesn't see it this way right now, but it sounds like her husband actually did her a huge favor. Imagine being married to someone who thinks it's okay or even funny to play with someone's emotions like this. Not to mention he spent more than a week setting this up. Was he not worried the kids might grab the iPad during that whole time? Even if he figured they wouldn't understand it, the sheer idea of them being roped into this makes his prank that much worse. It sounds like ending the marriage might honestly be the right move. It always feels extreme to say that, but this man does not care about OP or their children. He cares so little that he thinks going on a 3-hour walk, asking for a divorce, and crying her eyes out was too mild a reaction. Just how much more hurt did she need to feel for him to be satisfied that his prank was funny? That's not even just mean or thoughtless, it's sadistic. And if he's mad that she tried to hold it together for the sake of their kids, then I'm not sure he's really fit to raise children. Luckily, if they do get divorced, bringing this up in the custody battle should make things pretty easy for her. YouTube won't let me say most of the things I'd really like to say about this guy, but you can. Leave us a comment and let us know how you'd deal with this idiot. I catfished a girl and made her pay for a sandwich I didn't eat. I recently tried meeting girls online, but didn't have much success due to not being 1 in 10,000, handsome and super tall and with chiseled abs and stuff. I noticed a lot of girls had stuff in their profile saying things like, only swipe right if you're 6 foot plus and such, which is really hurtful to me because I'm 5'6" and this is just unnecessarily mean. I decided to get back at them for being like this. So I set up a fake profile with this really handsome guy I found online. I added some stuff saying I was 6'3", proud father of 2 cats, love cooking, avid gym goer, and so on. I then only swiped right on girls who had these ridiculously high standards. I matched with one who said she'd only like guys 6 foot and up. We wrote for a bit, and I asked her if she wanted to meet for lunch the next day at a coffee shop close to me. I sat in the corner of the coffee shop a bit before and saw her enter it. She sat down at a table and wrote me asking if I'd already arrived. I told her I'd be there in 10 minutes and said she could go ahead and order some food and to get the cheesesteak for me. I saw her get her food and everything, but of course her date still didn't show up. She wrote me again, and I told her that I was really sorry, but I couldn't make it, because a cute girl at the gym had asked me before if I wanted to join her for a post-workout shake, and it had taken longer than expected. Maybe we could get together some other time. She seemed annoyed, ate part of her food, then took the rest with her after she paid her bill. I felt very righteous, having shown her how wrong she was for her focus on superficial features like looks. However, I told one of my friends about it, and he claimed I had been a jerk to her. He said that even though I was in the right, I shouldn't do that kind of thing. I think he just feels sorry for her because she's an attractive girl. Am I the jerk for having pulled a prank on her? Of course you're the jerk, you stump-legged neckbeard. First off, a person setting standards for their ideal match isn't mean. Second, if you're swiping right, then the app you're on is not geared toward finding soulmates. And let's face it, if you're so much less shallow than these girls, then why are the attractive profiles the only ones you seem so focused on? Could it be that you were only looking at girls that matched your own standards, then whining when you didn't match theirs? Also, I hope everyone out there listening didn't miss the fact that liking cats and knowing how to cook are things OP included in his list of ridiculously high standards. It wasn't enough to fake his looks, he had to fake having a personality as well. And if he were even halfway interesting or kind, he might have won over those shallow girls. But he didn't even give them a chance to prove they were deeper than he decided they were. By the way, if you didn't get it, the lesson he was trying to teach her was that hot guys will treat her worse than he would have. Not only is this a baseless claim in light of his own actions, but it seems like she didn't have to learn anything anyway. She just got a little annoyed and then left without making a fuss. She moved on, and she probably has a line of better men than OP waiting around the block for her, while he's the one still worked up about it. She probably did all kinds of wonderful things to the next guy while she was feeding him OP's overpriced coffeehouse cheesesteak. Try and sleep on that thought, OP. My ugly sister used my picture to catfish a guy, so I married him. 4 years ago, my sister Izzy was catfishing a guy, James, with my pictures. This only came to light as she had been asking him to move to our area, and James had done it, so she had to come clean. James and I were both there for this confession, and neither of us spoke to Izzy for a while after. 6 months later, I saw James again. We got to talking and exchanged numbers. It was just friendly at first, but over time it grew into something more romantic. When we'd been together for about a year, we told Izzy, my brothers, and my divorced parents. Dad and brothers are happy, I'm happy, but Izzy and Mom both flew off the handle. We've been together 3 years now. In this time, we have interacted mainly with Dad and my brothers, and less so with Izzy and Mom. Izzy has had therapy and genuinely apologized to both of us, but the catfishing plus her reaction to our relationship hasn't made for a good relationship between all of us. James proposed early this year, and I accepted. We agreed on waiting to get married, given everything going on. And then a month ago, we found out I'm pregnant. So the wedding is officially a solid 2 or 3 years away. Despite us telling Mom this, she's been calling me to talk about wedding ideas regularly. Mom called again today to talk about bridesmaid dresses. During the conversation, she said that not only does she expect Izzy to be my maid of honor, but also godmother to the baby I'm carrying. Her reasons for this are that Izzy is my sister and planning on making me her maid of honor when she marries, and that Izzy is already godmother to my 8-year-old son. I expressed discomfort with both of those ideas, and Mom asked why. I told her that, given everything with Izzy and James, I'm not sure this is the best idea. Mom then said that all of that was over 5 years ago. We said we'd forgiven her, and at some point you have to let bygones be bygones, especially as we accepted her apology and she's gone to therapy. And if she hadn't gotten James to move here, then we never would have met at all, and the baby and marriage wouldn't be happening at all. She added that she was ashamed of me for excluding my sister over our past. Izzy has since contacted me, agreeing with Mom that I'm being unnecessarily harsh and saying that she's apologized and it's all worked out. She said she's not sure what else she can do to get me to get over it. Am I the jerk for not wanting my sister to be my maid of honor or godmother to my baby? This one might be above Reddit's pay grade. A lot of people feel that OP is in the right, since it's her wedding and her baby. On principle, this is true. The bigger question dividing most people is whether OP should have ever been with James in the first place. That's a lot trickier. It sounds like they mostly bonded over their shared distaste for Izzy at the time. It's not inherently bad that things grew into something more as they got to know each other, but that's still a shaky foundation to build a relationship on. Plus, commenters point out two other big issues. First, it's not entirely clear that James isn't projecting his original feelings for Izzy onto OP, since he associates her face with the connection they had. Second, this man moved areas for someone he had never actually met at that point, and then he stuck around after their connection was severed. Are those the life choices of a man you want raising your kid? In short, it's OP's decision what to do about the wedding, but there might be some red flags in this relationship. Then again, love sometimes grows in the most unexpected places. What do you think? Leave us a comment on whether OP's the jerk, along with your gut instinct on whether a relationship like this can work out. My wife and cat can't live peacefully together. I choose the cat. I've known my wife for 7 years, and we've been married for 4. She's 6 months pregnant with our first child. I have an indoor-only cat who I raised from a kitten to his current age of 16 years. My wife and I are the only people he's been around regularly. My wife has suddenly developed allergies to the cat. We talked with our doctor, and he said sometimes this can happen. My wife wants me to rehome the cat. I don't want to do this. He's old. He only knows me and my wife. He only knows our home, and he's not been around other people or animals. I think it'll be very stressful for him, and at this age, it just might be the end of him. I offered my wife a compromise. We can stay with her parents, who live 10 minutes away and have no issues with us taking the spare bedroom, until the baby is born. And then if the allergies persist for her or the baby, I can very carefully look into finding my cat a permanent new home. I'd check in on my cat every day. My wife called me a huge jerk for prioritizing my cat over her and the baby's health. I just don't want to traumatize my cat over something that might be temporary. Am I the jerk? Obviously, just about everyone agreed that OP was the jerk here for wanting to give a cat its own house while forcing his pregnant wife to live in a spare bedroom. But OP wasn't about to accept that answer lying down. Even most people who believe the original poster is real are doubting the truth of OP's follow-up. You might want to strap in. Update, none of it matters anymore. I started thinking about other options so my wife and I could stay in our home. My brother lives a few hours away, and he spent a few years living with my cat when we were younger, so I called him and explained the situation. He agreed to adopt him, but he was out of town, so the soonest he could come pick him up was the weekend after next. I told my wife that we would have to keep the cat for less than 2 weeks until my brother gets here, and until then, she would have to use allergy tablets or stay with her parents. She became furious and said she was not going to leave our house, and the cat had to go ASAP. I told her this was the best I could do. I was not going to give my cat away to whatever random person stopped by first. Yesterday, I got home from work and I couldn't find my cat. I asked my wife, and she told me with no hesitation or nothing that she dropped him off at an animal shelter. Her words were, "I'm pregnant and miserable, and you wouldn't get rid of him, so I did." I didn't argue. I just asked her to tell me which shelter, and drove straight there. I didn't see my cat in the cages at the shelter. When I showed the lady working there a picture of my cat, she started apologizing. She said they put him with the other cats, but later they were bringing in a large dog. They have to take dogs past the cat cages to the dog cages. The dog jumped at my cat's cage and barked at him, and my cat panicked and had a heart attack. He passed away. They gave me his body in a shoebox. I took him home. My wife started apologizing once she saw him, but I ignored her and went straight to the backyard and buried him. I called my brother earlier today and explained what happened. He started yelling into the phone that my wife assassinated my cat, and I need to reconsider my relationship. I just feel numb. I haven't said a word to my wife. I don't think I can even look at her. I don't know what I'm going to do. So here's a fun experiment you can try on your own. Next time you're stopping by the local animal shelter, ask them if they have a spare shoebox lying around. They'll probably say no, since they don't use them for disposals, and human shoes aren't among the supplies that get donated. Also, while you're there, see if you have to walk past the cats on your way to the dogs. You most likely won't, since most shelters are set up to avoid incidents just like this one. Also, here's a fun bit of trivia for you. When we hear words we aren't familiar with or don't use often, we have a tendency to repeat them in the next one or two relevant conversations. Not everyone does it, but a lot of people do, which is why it's weird that OP exclusively references cages when the shelter worker would definitely have said kennels. Here's the last and most important fun fact. It can sometimes take an animal about 2 weeks on average to normalize after a change of environment. So even if you assume this update is real, the cat still would have undergone some stress while moving in with a brother. And that stress would have lasted about as long as the cat would have spent with a friend or at a boarding facility if OP had decided to have the cat stay somewhere else instead of telling his wife to do the same. So is the wife a bit of a cartoon villain in this story? No, because she had no reasonable expectation that the cat would have a heart attack. Is OP still a jerk who'd rather stress out a pregnant woman than a cat? Yes, he is. Click on one of the videos you see on the screen now, or a Karen will sue you.